Okay, part one, Paulette Washington. Now I know what you're thinking. Tefi, who is Paulette Washington? Well, oh my God, I'm not wearing my rings. Scary, that was scary. So Paulette Washington is Denzel Washington's wife and mother to his children. And I recently came across an interview, Denzel Washington's son, John David Washington, who you might recognize from movies like Black Klansman, Malcolm and Marie was Zendaya, and Tenet, which I'm sure someone in the world understand. You know what? For me, I was going along, like I understood, and then they were started to go forward by reversing and then moving forward by going backwards. And that to me, and then it's just, anyway, so he has done numerous interviews, John David Washington, about how amazing his mother is, and I'll include one of those interviews here.
Son of Denzel Washington was...
And Paulette Washington.
And Paul, thank you. And
who
Paulette
was
Washington.
earning more money than he was when they married, before they got married. She was on Broadway working. She paid for the first date. She paid the bill, paid the cab ride. So, you know, a classically trained pianist, went to Juilliard. You know, she's a great artist in her own right, you know, and I learned a lot from her. My father taught me how to hunt. My mother taught me how to love.
This portion of, if it wasn't for his mother sacrificing so much, Denzel wouldn't have the career that he does today, and neither would John. And I thought that was really interesting because I don't think I've ever done a series celebrating the women that stand next to the men we love and admire in the media and in film. I need a new style, a new video style. Usually I have a green screen here, but I'm trying to evolve as a person, okay? So I'm gonna put her picture somewhere here, and I'm gonna be really tackling this and doing my best in a little app called iMovie, where I edit all my videos, because si se puede. The day they took away Microsoft Paint, I fell to my knees. Anyway, so who is Paulette Washington? Let's begin with the astrology. Paulette Pearson was born September 28th, 1950. She is a Libra sun and a Taurus moon. I would let that woman cradle me like a baby and make all aesthetic decisions of my life, and I would trust her third eye with my life. Okay, let's do Denzel Washington's astrology. Born December 28th, 1954. He's a Capricorn sun and an Aquarius moon. That is a very serious, very intuitive, introspective soul. Very focused, but I think a lot of his life is like, what am I doing this for? And he always comes back to like expression. I remember when Drake, TW, Aubrey Graham, in between texting Millie Bobby Brown, did an interview saying he remembers that Denzel told him he still goes to acting classes. And I think that's really what like an Aquarius moon is all about, like the curiosity around evolution and moving forward. It sounds like an easy peasy man to be with, you know, especially in the spotlight. That's a real tug, you know, between being around a lot of yes people and success. I feel like we know, and we've heard a lot of people who have a little bit of success and are no longer curious about growth and evolution and introspective thoughts or whatever. So that really comes from within. Let's get back to Paulette. Paulette is from Newton, North Carolina. I know what you're thinking. That's also the state where Michael Jordan played basketball in the documentary Space Jam, where we learned a lot about Michael Jordan as well as Bill Murray's knee. So Paulette began competing in piano competitions at the age of 10. As a classically trained pianist at the North Carolina School of the Arts, then Juilliard, and then the University of North Texas. A pianist and a vocalist. At the age of 20, she was the first African-American woman to compete in the Miss North Carolina beauty pageant in the year 1970, not that long ago, and she won runner-up. So she's a confident beauty queen, classically trained vocalist and pianist. And then after college, she starts doing theater. She picks up theater, and talk about, you've got it all, Paulette, you've got it all. I really admire her, okay? After college, she starts theater at the Goodman Theater in Chicago. She's in the Jesus Christ Superstar play and Shakespeare's Cabaret, which I haven't heard of, but it sounds sexy. Meets Denzel Washington after her first TV role, Wilma, after Wilma Rudolph. Rudolph is an Olympian that suffered polio in her childhood and went on to be a world record-breaking athlete after she participated in the Olympics for track and field in 1956 and 1960. It's an incredible story. A little bit about Denzel. We'll give a little background there too. Denzel Washington was born in Mount Vernon, New York. His father was a really busy guy. He was a Pentecostal preacher. He worked at the New York City Water Department, and he worked at the S. Klein department store. His parents divorced when Denzel is 14 years old, and his mother sends him to a preparatory school, a military preparatory school, a private preparatory Oakland Military Academy. And Denzel Washington really accredits his life to this decision of his mother to send him away to this boarding school, because he says that around the age of 14, he was not hanging out with kids going down a good path. He says that these kids now are probably serving 40 years combined at a state penitentiary, and that they were all nice kids, but the streets got them. And he was very much headed down the same path as them. If his mother hadn't sent him to this boarding school, he would probably be right in that cell with them. He then attends Fordham University in the Bronx. He doesn't know what to major in. I feel like a lot of kids, I mean, especially myself, I changed like 6 times, 7 times. I know a guidance counselor hates to see me coming. And he said he finally decided on acting when he participated in like a summer camp play at like the YMCA, and he caught that bug. The acting bug. Do people still say that? Well, back in my day, that's what they used to say. Back to Fordham, he starts, theater. He starred in Othello, starred in The Emperor Jones. There's a reason I always tell you what plays they were in, what movies they were in. Even if you're like, I've never heard of that a day in my life, I'll tell you why. Sometimes when I'm doing these series myself, I hear about plays. For example, Jesus Christ Superstar is an iconic play, and it was like my mom's favorite movie, in the 70s. And I hope it sparks an interest for you to look at stuff that's maybe not streaming. Because a lot of the stuff that inspired Denzel, inspired the actors before him, there are a lot of actors that you watch and idolize that participated in plays like this that opened up, new grooves in their brain. And I hope you look them up too. Like if you're not familiar with Othello, look it up. Like Jesus Christ Superstar, He spends the summer of 1976 at St. Mary's, their summer stock show, Wings of the Morning. 1977, he has a role in this movie, Wilma, that I talked about previously with Paulette, right? So Denzel is playing Robert Eldridge, who is Wilma's husband, and then Paulette is playing one of Wilma's Olympian teammates, May, right? And they don't really, they know each other on the movie, but they don't really meet again until a year later, where one of the castmates from that movie, Wilma, has a party. And Wilma said in a 1996 interview about this party that Denzel and his friends came at the very end of the party and they were reintroduced. The next night, she goes to see this play and she's super, super late. So she kind of sneaks in and plops down at the first seat that she sees. Intermission comes, the lights turn on, and she looks and she's sitting next to Denzel. Now, Denzel has his own theories about that evening. He says, me and my friends, we go to this party that one of my castmates invited me to, and I mentioned, I'm going to go see this play tomorrow. And the very next day, he said this live with Regis and Kelly, I think. Regis and Ryan. He said it on live television, okay? He's like, oh, and then guess what? The next day, I go to this play, and who's sitting next to me? And he looks at the camera, he's like, I'm getting in trouble just for saying this. But then Paulette has talked about their first date, and their son, John David Washington, mentioned the cab ride in the interview that I showed early on in this series. So basically, they go to a party, and then they take a cab ride, right? And Denzel says he's watching the fare go up, like raise. And he turns to Paulette at one point and says, I have no money. And Denzel proposed to her 3 times. On the 3rd time, she said yes. So they get married June 25th, 1983. And on Jimmy Kimmel Live, Denzel Washington, I think in 2017, Denzel Washington says that at their wedding, they were like talking to so many people, the couple, the bride and the groom. They were shaking so many hands that when it's time for them to eat, they ran out of food. Denzel was like, we had to go to a diner and eat eggs. sincere, like the bride and the groom. Like we didn't get to eat, we had to go to a diner. Part 2, Paulette Washington. How ridiculous is it that I started this series in the daytime, morning actually, and so much time has passed because of work that now it's nighttime. Inhumane. And then I'm gonna have to go to the gym later. This is crazy. And stretch and take care of my mental health and then journal. Too much. Let's talk about Paulette, excuse me. We learned about Paulette's background and her relationship. Let's talk about her career. So after Wilma in 1977, she mainly stuck to theater. She was in productions such as Jerry's Girl and Children of the Sun. Paulette does consider herself more of a musician than an actress. In 2011, she was on the Wendy Williams show, which is something I'm eventually gonna stop saying because there's no more Wendy Williams show and it's the greatest heartbreak of my life. But she was on the Wendy Williams show, like I said, and she says this. I'm gonna read you a quote. I'm a musician. At the time I was working on Broadway, you had to do everything. You had to act, you had to sing, you had to dance, but basically I was a trained musician. So I would not even claim to be an actress, but I do tell stories and I stylize words. So maybe that's what I would say I am more than an actress. So Paulette stopped working in 1983 when she became pregnant with her and Denzel's first child, John David Washington. When she was pregnant, Denzel was on a TV show called Saint Elsewhere. I feel like I'm over enunciating. I don't know why. Is it insecurity of me because I don't do these series as much? That's annoying. So Saint Elsewhere was a really popular show. It's a medical drama. It's like a Grey's Anatomy, except it's not at this state-of-the-art hospital. It's at this rundown Boston hospital. So it's all these like medical dramas and also the reality of working in a big city, low-funded hospital. And Ed Begley Jr. was on Saint Elsewhere as well. He's now starring in Strange Darling, and his daughter is on TikTok, and I love her content, and she posts about what a wonderful person he is all the time. Back to Paulette. So Denzel's on this extremely successful. I forgot to turn off my air conditioner. Okay, so it's 1983 and Paulette Washington decides to step away from working for a while to raise their family. And she also said this on the Wendy Williams show, okay? When I became pregnant, I thought I had such a stable childhood coming home and seeing my mom, and Denzel was doing a television show called Saint Elsewhere that was shooting in Los Angeles. And I was here on Broadway, and where would the child be? In the air. So I decided it was my choice to be home and create a home. And I'm so happy that I did. That is so selfless. That is so beautiful to put your personal ambition aside because the love for your child and wanting to create stability and security and balance for your child. I think that's like the most rock and roll thing that you can do. Truly. Working in pop culture and doing pop culture videos like this, there are so many stories of so many people who grow up and they don't know what stability and security looks like because their parents made a different decision. And she probably, in the industry, knew those people as well and decided, not my kid, and I bow to you. But she didn't stop working forever. I'm going to read you some of her resume, okay? In 1993, she performed the song It's in Your Eyes for the soundtrack of the film Philadelphia, starring her husband Denzel, an incredible film. In 2002, she played piano for the score of the film Antoine Fisher, directed and starring her husband Denzel Washington. Since their children have grown, Paulette has become more active in acting with small roles in television shows like The Parkers. Love The Parkers. Laugh out loud funny. Big LOLs. She's Gotta Have It. And most recently, larger roles in Genius, playing Rachel Franklin, and Reasonable Doubt, where she plays Mama Lou. Throughout her career, she's also acted in several short films, such as 90 Days, Career Suicide, Arthur's Edge, and Burden. Paulette has had small parts in TV movies, The Watson Go to Birmingham, The Real MVP, The Wanda Durant Story. These are all like in the 2010s and 2020s. Paulette returned to theater in 2011, starring in the off-Broadway play Love, Loss, and What I Wore. Paulette is a philanthropist and a founding member of the Brain Trust of Cedars Sinai, which is a group that raises money and awareness for research into brain tumors and the central nervous system. She is also on the board of trustees for Spelman College, as well as being a contributor for the Crossroads Theater Company. This woman is busy. In 2005, her and Denzel were giving the BET Humanitarian Award their philanthropy in the neuroscience field. And she raised a son who won't let anybody forget the sacrifices that she made for them. Now, I grew up in a single parent home, and I often say that watching my mom go for her dreams and continue to work so hard is a blessing and something I'm super, super grateful for. It definitely affected my work ethic, and as well as, you know, feeling like I can do it all. But again, she didn't really have a choice, you know? She had to get out there and put food on the table and make sure that we were never wanting, which I bow down to my mom as well. I guess what I'm trying to say is, working or non-working moms, there is sacrifice. And I don't think that Denzel Washington would have the career that he has today if it wasn't for the unwavering support of this woman. And obviously, you know, she did a wonderful job teaching her children morals and values and acknowledging the sacrifices that people have to make in order to raise children that are, you know, part of society and are successful. I'm gonna tell you something right now. I've never met a stay-at-home mom that's not tired. I've never met a mom that's not tired, period. So I just wanna give parents out there who are making sacrifices every day for their kids, thank you, and here are your flowers, especially Paulette Washington. I loved learning about you.